good.
Hotep, peace and love, Uncle Jasaneb. This is Yirser Hotep, and you are here with us at the Yoga Skills Kemetic Yoga Studio, and we are pleased and highly gratified to have as our guest today, High Priestess, Empress Yamaya Faye. And we're going to be talking about health, wellness, and spirituality. So, welcome, sister. How are you?
I am good, divinely good, actually, and very pleased to be here with you again. Wonderful.
Yes. We met because we met other ways prior, but
Yes.
you also interviewed me for your podcast, and I said, let me, interview you, not just because you interview me, because a lot of people interview me, but I don't interview them back, but because of who you are and what you have to offer. Okay.
That's right.
And so let me first of all just tell everybody a little bit about you so they can get an idea as to why this is going to be a fantastic interview. And conversation. It really should just be a conversation.
Exactly. That's definitely.
So I'm gonna read your bio. So beginning her career in modeling and working with various fashion houses and companies in New York, Los Angeles, London, and Milan. Milan is in Italy. Okay. With 20 plus years in the industry and her personal knowledge, she rapidly became a highly sought after life coach, public speaker, and consultant for fashion imagery, social etiquette, and empowerment organizations and agencies. Okay. Now, my eyes not as good as they used to be, so that's why I'm sort of stumbling a little bit. I didn't want to put these old thick reading glasses on, but I should have. Okay.
Oh.
So in 2009, Yamaya ventured out of the U.S. to expand her brand and creativity into Europe by becoming a designer, participating in various fashion weeks across the US, Europe, and Africa, interior and exterior designing multi-million-dollar luxury villas in the top tourist destinations. In the top tourist destination, Spain, all the while raising her heiress, Jacqueline.
Yes.
Your daughter, Jacqueline, your heiress. Okay.
Yes.
So throughout this great venturing, she has always understood the importance of self-empowerment, personal development, creating her own lifestyle. She founded, let me just do this like this. She founded create your own identity.
Create your own identity. Yes.
So create your own identity.
And lifestyle that best suits you in divine balance.
Okay. And so basically what you're talking about, what you are all about is self-empowerment.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So I formulated some questions here I wanted to ask you. So let me just make sure I get your name right. Because when we have African names or names that are more spiritual outside of the European context, people often don't get them right, So your name is Yamaya.
Yes, or Yamaya. Some people say Yamaya Faye. Yamaya Faye. And some say Yamaya. It depends on where you're from.
Okay. And you are High Priestess and an
Yes,
Empress.
yes, honey. It's a combination.
Yeah.
A lot of self-development has happened.
Well, they go, they go together in the African tradition.
Most definitely.
The kings, the queens, the empresses and emperors, they were also priests,
Most
and
definitely.
high priest, because they go along with the leadership title. Okay.
Like those sibyls,
Yeah.
matriarch, those sibyls.
Hmm. So, and so what does Yamaya or Yamaya mean?
Well, how interesting is that? Of course, my mother gave me the name Jamaya. And after doing my research on it, because of course you're kind of like, okay, it's Jamaica, and people would say, oh, Jamaica, in school they would call you everything but
Mhm.
your actual name. But upon doing the research of that, I found out that it's absolutely Orisha, Yamoja. And she had told the story to me that she was watching a movie, and it was talking about this goddess, and she was going into it, and in the midst of this, um, I guess she was about to have me, this sort of thing. And she was like, no, I want this name. This is the name she needs to have. So without her even really having the understanding of what she was naming me, she just thought it was beautiful. And she changed the Y. She made it a J. And
Mhm.
so what I did was, of course, I appreciate her giving me that name, the vibration. However, once I did the research on it, I realized, oh, okay, it's supposed to be a Y. It's supposed to be a Y. And back in that time, okay, if we do our research, there were no J's. They were all Y's.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's
And
Yamaya.
so
So
and
she's
so
like
where
that. She's the
oh,
Orisha. Basically, she's the Orisha. Like everyone celebrates Oshun. This is the mother of the sea, Yamoja. So
so
it's
so we
beautiful.
hear so we hear that name being pronounced different ways.
Hmm.
Yemaya,
Hmm.
Yamaya, so on and so forth.
Yamoja. It's the
Yamoja, yeah.
same. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so she is a spiritual divinity
Exactly.
that is the embodiment of the ocean or the waters of the earth are her
Right.
are her embodiment.
Most definitely. And as I did more research on that, a lot of what you're, what people are being taught or know of, I've lived a lot of that whole, uh, God, what I would call an experience. But when people start to think about it as, philosophy or this particular way of living or tradition, this sort of thing. I started to live certain aspects of that before I realized that. And doing the research, I was like, oh my God, really? I'm
Mhm,
living this
mhm,
woman's or this divinity's life and not realizing that, oh my goodness, okay, this has actually been going on before I was even, a seed in the mother's womb, so to speak. And I had so much connection to Yemoja, whether it been in that metaphysical state or actually the day-to-day application or interaction with people. I was dealing with a lot of that particular state. So
mhm.
it was tough, but then at the same time, I can appreciate it now with maturity.
Now, um, when your mother was having you and naming you, where was this?
Oh, it was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I
Milwaukee.
was, I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
So
Yeah.
you're like 90 minutes north of me in Chicago.
A lot of family in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Little Rock, Arkansas, Chicago. So yeah, I've
Mm,
lived all over that US pretty much. But
okay.
yeah, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay. And then how long did you live in Milwaukee? Were you raised there or?
No, not totally. I left. I believe I was like probably about 10 or 11. Left and went and lived in Arlington, Virginia, so Washington, D.C. And we would come. I would go, of course, back and forth. Um, and just before leaving and going to live in Hawaii, so it's kind of I was in and out of places, which at one time I didn't really appreciate because you couldn't really hold on to any friendships or, especially in that time, there was no, web,
Mhm. Right.
internet, none of this. Everyone had to use their fingers and write letters and stamps and all this other stuff. So I wasn't quite happy about it, but at the same time, over time, it broadened my horizon, my mental. I wasn't just in one particular state, whether it be physically or mentally.
So your family moved around or
Yeah, yes.
because
A
of
Pentagon daughter. I was a Pentagon daughter.
a Pentagon? So your parents
Yeah,
were in the military.
yes.
Okay.
The father worked in the Pentagon.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah. That
so
helped.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then modeling took me, and being curious took me to all the other places. Yeah.
Okay, so how did you get in? How did you decide to get involved with modeling? How did your modeling career begin?
Mm. Well, the modeling career, that was after I actually lived in Hawaii for a little bit. Once I got to the island, let's say Oahu, um, I was brought into the Hawaiian court, and I was crowned Leilani. Um, the island Leilani, orange, sacred shocker, all this fire, all this other things. Um, and there I entered into my first pageant. So entering in my pageant there in Hawaii, and later, after I left Hawaii, went into Florida, and I started to just kind of go after it. And the inspiration, it was most definitely Diana Ross and mahogany. And
Hmm.
my mother was a sewer, a seamstress. I was designing, so I always knew I had to have certain things. And I'm 6'2", so clothes, they weren't making clothes for big tall women, they're making it for little women. So we had to most definitely go into the fabric stores and make clothes. So that only, helped my pursuit of like, okay, I'm tall and this tall for what reason now? What's this reason? And of course, we played
Hmm.
sports, and everybody wants you to do basketball. And it's like, okay, that's great. I can do that. This is wonderful. So I did it. But however, I really liked the modeling, and figured I could do it most definitely.
Okay. And so you were like a teenager when you started
Yeah, yeah,
modeling.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. Pursuing it is the best that I could, learning about cameras, lighting, everything. I mean, because back in the day, of course, we had to learn these things. We had to actually go out and learn these things. And of course, the color was also a key role. This melanin skin was not so put out in the forefront, very selective. So I had to do a lot of research on it. What lighting looked good on me, what this, that, how to do this and that, to even present yourself. So I started young, yeah, quite young.
Yeah, so just to sort of put your career in as a model in some kind of context. So who were
Okay.
some of the major, because people look at you, they can't really tell how young you really are, you know, because you look
Sure.
ageless because of the fact of your lifestyle. So
Uh-huh.
who were some of the other who were some of your peers during the time?
Naomi and Tyra Banks. Those were the top tiers. Naomi was, of course, the top tier.
Mhm.
And Tara Banks and myself, of course, then Tara Banks, I left New York City, which is on another topic, but I left New York City and went back to Florida. And when I left New York City, I decided to teach and help other ladies because I realized, outside of myself, I was going through certain things myself internally because here I was gifted with this height and this appearance. And oftentimes it was misdirected or misinterpreted, or, me using it in one way caused something else. So it was a lot of internal work that needed to be done, self-confidence, because where one person would say you're attractive, another one despised you for it. They're like, okay, why are you conceited, or things of this sort. So I left New York City after going to some major agencies, and they're saying you're exotic because, again, that was at the time that discolor skin was not, amplified in a lot of agencies. So they were like, oh, no, you're too exotic. We can't make you up. You already look like, you're making 1,500 on the runway. No, they wanted people really tore down.
Mhm.
And what I got to see, though, is even if the woman wasn't physically tore down, she was mentally, tore down, lack of confidence, and these different things. And I knew that clearly because certain aspects of that I was also dealing with. So I went back to start to teach, you know, these
And what
particular things.
and when you said you went back to teach, so what were you teaching? Were you teaching that's exactly what were you teaching?
I was okay, from the physicality side of it. Of course, it was how to walk, how to do your makeup, how to your etiquette, social etiquette, being able to interview, going for a job, this sort of thing. Whether it was a regular paying job or entertainment job, um, the the whole point of having moral and ethics. And then I found myself actually doing a lot more self development, deep self development with
Mhm.
young ladies that were, of course, coming to me to learn how to walk the catwalk, because all these things I had to learn myself, camera lighting. So I was teaching the physical aspect for people, these women, but I also was teaching the internal side, challenging the internal side.
So the women that were coming to you, they were coming to you because they wanted to get into the modeling industry.
Exactly. They
Okay.
wanted to get into the modeling and entertainment industry. And a lot of the young ladies at that particular time that I was instructing and teaching were women, were daughters of corporate America. They
Mm,
were corporate America daughters, they had money, they had the prestige, or, the family, but they had no etiquette. And they didn't have this, what we call today swag, or this, amplified energy and aura that would draw people onto them that clients would want, you
mm,
know. And
mm,
here I was, teaching a whole lot of, at that time, pale skin, porcelain, Caucasian, however you want to call it, women,
right.
um, how to basically do or be me in that aspect. They
Mhm.
didn't have to go out and learn that. I would teach them the certain aspects of it, how to be themselves, but using what I had learned.
Right. Well, that's interesting because it sort of reminds me of stories of black women throughout history.
Uh-huh.
African women throughout history. Where other white women come to them for
Yeah.
advice and for learning how to become who they are supposed to be. You
Mm-hmm,
know,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and
It
then
was very much that. It was very much that.
because they're not connected to the earth as much. And
Mm-hmm,
so by you being somebody from the earth, you can
mm-hmm.
give them insight into how to ground themselves, how to be who they're supposed to be, and how to maintain their
That's right.
their spirit in this
Mhm,
world, which
mhm.
is really trying to, exploit them in certain ways.
Most definitely. And as I did that, the more I did it, I also start to understand my value. because I had two different major agencies fighting for my attention, because they saw the people were coming. And of course, for me, I'm like, oh my goodness, wait a minute. Wait a minute. All of these women are putting their children, their daughters and teens, and looking on hunt for me. Where is this woman? So technically, it kind of turned out that I became one that they wanted to have speak in colleges or something like this, because I could motivate people to achieve their goals, and give some direction, cut off certain things, because these young ladies were brats. Let's just get real. They were small brats. They're smoking, talking to their mother, all different kinds of ways, where we would have not been able to do certain things with our parents. There's no way. But they respected or looked up to me, because for them, I was something of stature, iconic, something that they found attractive, and they wanted to get my knowledge or have my knowledge. Yeah.
And you had created a reputation within the fashion field because of the work that you had already done.
Yeah, I did. I was like, okay, well, if every door, I'm going to all of the major agencies, and they keep telling me you're too exotic, or no, you're too tall. I've been to some of the top designers, and it's like, you're too tall, because everything was set, it's etched in stone. No model could be over 5'11". I'm 6'2". And then I'm curvy, and then all these extra add-ons. I was like, okay, how can I take this experience and utilize it with my gift? And I have a gift to be oracle, to speak, to be able to draw people. But I didn't want my beauty just to draw them to look at some clothes. Clothes are wonderful, but hello, you can take your clothes off. The energy still has to be there,
So, sorry. So when did you so I would guess that your idea of yourself and and you coming into knowing that you are a high priestess, and that you are somebody who has a spiritual that you have spiritual gifts. So how did that evolve?
Oh my God, that's 2 videos. I'll try to make it as short as possible. It's too big. The depth is, because I was traveling a lot, I was going through a lot of spiritual growth and attacks. Okay. At the same time, I was hearing a lot. Like, I could hear what people were saying, what they were thinking. And I was, okay, who am I going to speak to about these things? Who can I talk to about these things? Like, I have no knowing of certain things. And I'm like, how do I know this? But I want to speak out about him. So I went through several different situations where I was foreseeing and telling what I saw. I would go to the people around me, closest to me, to see if they saw it, or they got the understanding of it. And oftentimes they did not. And most of the time it was a truth that they knew, but they were wondering, how did I know that in such detail? So I realized later that what that was spirit was always there, in high regard, always telling me, look, go that way, watch out for that. And it was a choice whether I chose to go where I was clearly not supposed to be, but then I end up learning something from it. So a lot of that understanding came from dealing with people that were closest to me. So that's family and friends. And some of them actually being quite upset that I could see stuff that I was not supposed to know. And I could bring it out in detail. So, okay, well, how's she doing that? Wait, what? So that can kind of put people off. And then I have the nerves to be 6 foot tall, and I'm a young woman. And when I say young woman, literally when I was in Washington, D.C., this is when I would say about the age of 13, that it started to really come in very strong, very heavy, very strong and very heavy, to a point that I was hearing and seeing things in my dreams. And I wanted to know who else could help me with this, who else could direct me. I was looking on television, of course, at that time too. There wasn't too many of us, spiritually led, put out on television. So it's like, okay, no. So I went into different churches. So I sat in different churches. So Catholic, and I was born into a family that was Baptist, of course, then Christian. So Baptist, Christian, then Catholic, and then I went into Muslim. I went to every church, Pentecostal, and sat because I wanted to know, how was I knowing these things that no one had told me, like externally. And I remember as I went through and I got to the last church, just the inner self, divine source said, I'm not here. I'm only within you. Everywhere you go is where I am. You're looking for me in that church. I'm not there. So it started with that. It was a continuous, go through. It was tough everywhere that I went. So the other part of me saying, I didn't like that I had to go to different places, like different cities. And I was looking at it from one aspect of having friends or having somebody that I can build relationships with. The other part was every time that I went to a new location, I had to go through this same process of people being fearful. Here comes this tall, and she can see. And even sometimes when I didn't say things, people would later, they told me, I felt like you knew something about me. And I'm like, okay. And yeah, I was let in on some secrets, by source. That's all. So it kind of happened that way, most definitely.
Okay. So did you go through any type of because you talk about you use terms like from Yoruba,
Uh-huh.
Yamaya, and so did you go through any type of initiations or any type of training with any
So
traditions?
some I went through some, like I said, I went through most of the of course, going through all the churches, and then some with the Yorubi, with Yorubi, some of the priests that are actually of course in Nigeria. Some. And the depth of this is, once I started to go through these rituals or traditions, what ended up happening is the priests that were there, because they would come and they would say certain things to me, and they were like, how do you know that already? How is it that you're already doing that? I started finding more and more that I was already embodying the things that they teach, you know? And they were like, wait a minute, how is this possible that you have this? And what is that? Because spirit, of course, is divine. It's divine source. It will speak to anyone that allows the clear message, the clear channel. So oftentimes the priest and the priestess would go, wait a minute. I just heard this, blah, blah, blah. I had this reading. Here's this, blah, blah, blah. But you're already doing that. And who taught you that? And how do so it was one of those things, the same type of situations I had in the traditional, what we would call church. Most often I had as well when we're talking about African traditions. I was already doing certain things, and it was, for me, it was even mind-boggling. I was like, what? Wait a minute. And then here comes in a teacher, a teacher that says, this is who I am. I see, I can identify, this is what you're doing. Here it is. And any questions that I had then would be answered if I had more questions. So yeah, it was the same thing in a religious house and a spiritual house. It's the same things, but never having to stay for a tremendous long time. It's almost like enough to get the food or what was needed for that process, and then you can continue. And I always went through some type of spiritual like purging each time. There was like a spiritual purge, like alleviating something, going through some particular physical, mental drama, something like this. And then it was like delivered, go on, next thing.
Yeah. So it seems so because my impression of you is that you're primarily self-created. You know,
Yeah.
you're primarily somebody who has been able to naturally tap into, the spirit world, and you have been able to figure out on your own with some
Had to.
assistance from other sources and stuff. But basically, you have created your own path and created your own, methodology, your own, way that you do your thing.
Create your own identity from the inside out is
Right.
something that I had to develop myself, and that's why I can share it with someone else. So it's not, it's only taking the essential aspects of what I had to do far as foundational and passing it on to someone else so they can create that thing for themselves as well. So it started externally because that was my journey, modeling, da 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 da, whatever. And as I'm going through, I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? Come on, these are cute. This is accessories to my divine source, my divine spirit. Okay, anything that I put on it is amplified. It's amplified. That's why it looks good. This is the one thing that I found that I grew deeper and deeper in, but I had to go out into the field, like being out in the Damascus area. All of us can go to the Bible. Job, I remember countless hours and being up early, rising 3 a.m. and waking up and going, what? Why am I here? What? Why do I have to take on the man's role? Because I was looking at a man, you keep showing me men in the Bible. What is this? Why do I have to lose everything? A Job, and then get this particular part. Oh, okay, here's a Esther, this sort of thing. So I had to do a lot of self-work, a lot, and by yourself. Then you would later get the affirmation or confirmation that, oh, you're doing it right. Look, because here comes a priestess, or here comes, even at that time, a bishop, a bishop of a church. And then I'm going, no, come, please speak over the people. It was like that. And then when it was time for me to break away and leave, even the United States, I would wake up at 3 a.m. and Spirit would have me going from church to church, every church that was around, speaking prophetically to the house. And of course, that too, that's internal self-development. You know what I mean? That you can stand alone. And I know all these faces are going to look at you and be like, okay, she crazy. Something's wrong. Or don't want to hear that prophetic word. But I had to stand in it. For me, yeah, at times going, what? Wait a minute. Come on. Seriously? And then realizing the more I did it, the more I got affirmation, confirmation in who I am and what I'm supposed to do. And then people, it was like divine source was sending people to me when I would land in different places. So it changed. And they would come in, bowing, people saying, I saw you in my dream. And I'm like, I've never seen these people before in my life. And I always had someone to bear witness. And that, whether it was the person I was with or my daughter, my heiress, there was always someone bearing witness to people coming, going, I just had a dream about you. You said this and that. And I'm like, really? And it lined up to something that I had already planned within myself, or this or that. People from Africa, dropping down at the time when I was at my lowest point. They were dropping down, Queen, on the floor. I'm like, are you kidding me? Right now, right here? Are you serious? It was that type of thing. So it's what they call the humble state. but not humble where you won't keep going and persevering and keep going, that you're shaking to the core, this sort of thing.
So,
It's depth,
so,
it's work.
so we have people. It's a lot of people. You know, I really appreciate you breaking all of this down and sharing. So I just want to get an idea of, like, because you deal with I don't I, you know I want to use the right terminology, so I would just say spiritual advisement,
Mm-hmm.
but you
So
also deal with fitness,
divination. Mm-hmm.
divinate. Okay, let's just go through that first on the spiritual side.
Mm-hmm.
Advising people, divination.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
else? What else?
Okay, so what I do is do people's self-care, so inside out. So some people will come, this is what's attracted to me. Some people will come simply because they want to look a certain way. So that deals with their physical, whether it be their fitness, yoga, you know, how they look, the clothes that they're putting on their back, this sort of thing. The other part is the self-development. So that's scaring, that's shadow work, of course, divination, and dealing with traumas, things that they have not let go, um, and
Mm.
it's blocking them. So it's kind of, as I said before, it's an inside out thing. Okay, this is what you need to know. People are led, and I've always said that those that come to me and they know why they're coming. You know what I mean? Most, and sometimes when they come for one thing and they realize it's the other that they need as well, you know, which is beautiful in many respects, but this is often what happens. So we're talking about divination, self-development. So that's confidence in who you are, what you need to be doing, how you need to stand. And in all of that, you're creating your own identity, who you choose to be, who you resonate as, your totality. As helping people give a balance of their divine masculine and feminine product. Because I had to learn that. Remember, as I just said, it was kind of like, excuse me, I'm a female. Why am I going through male situations from what I was able to see, you know, or had reference to? So in that aspect, I looked at a lot of people like, okay, this is the very thing that I had to learn. I can also give that out to other people. So that confidence level, and confidence for individuals may be different, where one person may be quite confident in how they articulate and speak, this sort of thing. Another one may not so, you know, it's like, no, I need to know how to have my own voice, how to speak up. Well, the depth of that is you need to know who you are first as source, because you're source.
So,
You're the
so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
yeah,
so divination,
yeah,
that would involve like a reading.
scaring. Yes, reading, scaring,
And
reading,
you said
as well
scary.
as scouring. It's kind of it's
Okay,
work, mirror work. It's mirror work. A lot
mirror
of people
work.
get, yes, a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
get into the mirror and they look in the mirror and they just see their external self, but they feel their internal self.
Mm-hmm. And so you have some kind of a process that you do
Yes.
in front of
With
the mirror.
yes, in front of the mirror. So scouring, but scouring also is one of those things that help you with your divination. That helps you be comfortable with your own light, be
Mm-hmm.
comfortable, and excuse my mouth, owning your own shit.
Mm-hmm.
Owning your own shit. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people say, okay, I was in a bad relationship. Okay, well, that person, well, what I realized was, okay, I was in a bad relationship, but I also played a role. That's owning your own shit. That's you finding out what role you played, owning it, and helping yourself to move forward and taking what was good from that and applying that application. It's also the role where you have to see how you played that role. Were you more in a masculine energy or a feminine energy? You know, this type of thing. So that's a lot of self work, because that's what I had to do for self, where people are going, oh my God, I love this or that about you. And how do you do this and that? Well, I had to do a lot of deep internal work, you know? And then the realization of that is helping people cut cords. because a lot of things were passed on to us, you know? It's just what it is. It was passed to us. We were born into it and we adapted to it. However, we must realize and take ownership for the role we played in it.
So how do you define cutting cords?
You cutting cords. So first taking that internal thing that has your emotions wrapped around it and going in and deciphering the role you played. Then after you decipher the role you played in it, now how do you change your mind on that? What are you saying about that particular situation? How does it make you feel? So it's almost confronting that particular space of yourself, you know? If it's attached to someone else, now you have to take that particular person and bring them into yourself to be able to release them from self. And most times it's somebody that we know very closely. So you feel some form of guilt if you release them. You know, it's like being, what I teach is, or help, assist people to enter and understand how to be attached but detached. It's the, let's go to the word, how the Bible says, you know, hey, you can be in this world and not of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Depth. We all have to take that on. The hardest thing for us to do is first do it with ourselves and forgive ourselves for the role we played in whatever situation. So this helps you cut the cord. Identifying that particular thing is the other essence of it. Writing it down. We write all the time. We speak all the time. Are we casting our own spells? Well, we don't. We miss it. Oftentimes we write something. We're saying something. We're casting our own spells. So in that particular situation, you want to cut a cord. Why is that energy so vibrating so high when you see a certain person? Well, because you haven't cut that energy. You're still vibrating in that energy. And in today's time, most people don't realize that you're able to operate in the past, the present, and the future at the same time. The depth of that. Let's just, you know what I mean? Like, that's where all of us have to take accountability. And with doing that, that helps us own our own totality. So there will never be a point that I'm going, oh, you know what? It was totally all your fault. Excuse me? I had to have played a role in that. The sad part about it is horrible things do happen. I've dealt with a lot of horrible things, but I had to own, forgive myself, and move on from it. Yet and still, I'm here presently speaking with you, but everything that I just said to you has already been spoken. It's in the past.
Right.
The depth of how we must treat ourselves and develop ourselves is one of the biggest things that I found that I have been able to assist people with, because I first assisted myself.
Yeah, I'm just
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I just went off.
No. I'm just overwhelmed because of the depth of the things that you're saying. And you know, there are so many people out here who are dealing with trauma, who are dealing with so many cords that need to be cut. They deal with so much guilt. And you know, one of the things that I've always observed about living in this cultural, this hegemonic cultural matrix that we live in, is that there is an intentional there was an intentional you know, input that they put into us, you know, like guilt, the feeling of guilt. You know, they intentionally instill guilt into our consciousness because it's a means of control. They intentionally instill you know, low self-esteem.
Yes, definitely.
They intentionally instill the sense of powerlessness by saying that, you know, our power is up in the sky or something
Yes,
like
most
that, you
definitely.
know, and so on and so forth. So so the things that you were saying seems to be addressing, you know, those issues, those societal you know, the various institutions that we are influenced by, like churches and,
Most definitely.
you know, so on and so
Your
forth.
biggest influence, pardon, your biggest influence are the people around you.
Okay.
You don't even have to go outside your home. Those are the
Mhm.
people right around you. The
Right.
depth. We learn so much from the unspoken word.
Right. Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah, because people around us are products of this stuff, and
Hmm.
they are the primary ones who are instilling, who are making us, you know, um,
Hmm.
making us believe that we should feel a certain way.
Hmm.
Am I
Hmm.
saying it right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Most definitely. Most
Mhm,
definitely.
mhm. Okay,
Yes,
so
most definitely there. Okay.
and so you are you got your spiritual side, the spirituality. I don't want to divide it up because that's what Western people do. They divide up. You got spirituality, then you got um, physical over here, and it's all separate, but it's all working together. And so, one
Hmm.
thing that's unique about you is that you are not just working with one thing.
Hmm.
You seem to be working on the spiritual understanding, the inner psychology. You seem to
Most
be working
definitely.
on the yoga, the stress
Hmm.
management, the wellness, the fitness, the
Hmm.
nutrition. It seems like you
Hmm.
have developed a complete model of
Hmm.
how to change, how to transform a human being
Exactly.
from one state to another. So talk about
Hmm. Okay, and thank you. Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. Um, it's been a long time coming in the aspects of my divine divinity, me, myself, and I. Let's resonate there. Um, I had to go through so much. When people say, that things are happening to them, I realized that I was saying the same thing. Things were happening to me. However, they were happening for me. It's all based on how you choose to receive those things, how you choose to use that thing, how to come out of it. And for me, because it's not like you had such an easy life. I didn't have such an easy life. And people are like, well, you're going through something? How are you going through something? You don't look like you're going through anything. And I said, yeah, the depth is most people go through something, but they hold on to it. So as they keep going, you still look like it. You still vibrate in that particular situation. No, I've gone through some things too: trauma, rape, violation, drugs, being drugged, homelessness, all. I've gone through these very same things, but in that particular fashion, as I've gone through them, I always kept showing up for myself. If I had to sum it up like that, I always kept showing up for Yamaya. I am the only one in my casing. I'm only me. So if I choose to operate this way, then that's how it's going to end up flowing. Now, my decisions on who I choose to be around, the place I choose to stay, all these things happen with my development. So I get wise within my own steps. A lot of people, I used to hear this so often, people are like, nobody's perfect, nobody's perfect. Years ago, I started this thing. I said, no, 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 darling. It's not about a person being perfect. We are perfect. We walk out our perfection. Who told you that lie? We walk out our perfection. That's based on your own identity, who you choose to be. So it's for me, it's that embodiment. And when you see people that have owned their totality in some fashion, everyone tends to look at them as they're great
Mhm.
because they took whatever that was. So most people look at athletes, most people look at engineer. They look, they might have been quirky here, a little crazy there, da, 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 da. But look, they're great because they own their own totality, and they took whatever was in their hand or whatever was surrounding them, and they used that to help stimulate what it is that they wanted. So even in the midst of me not having something, being homeless, and looking for a new job and doing this and da da da, people were like, "Wait a minute, you're homeless? Yeah, yeah, yeah." They would never even think of it because I present myself the way I choose to see me. This is how I choose to see me. And if that vibrates with you and you enjoy it, so be it. Eat of it, water it even. But this is how I choose this thing. I had to take it back because I was giving it all out. This was the biggest thing. I was giving out all of it. As I said, as I started to develop and understand, like, why do I know these things? Who's this? How can I hear these people through the wall? Nobody else heard that. And then it comes to me, what is this? I had to own my own stuff because nobody else was going to help me do that. No one else is going to help me do that. And it was like, okay, you've been weird, but okay, you know. And as you get around, of course, more of those people that have taken time to own their own totality, have taken time to say, okay, you know what? I'm on this particular journey as well, and I can enter and understand you. Then, of course, that becomes your family, that becomes your tribe, that becomes, you know, this sort of thing. But you still are all doing it yourself. I gave birth to twins, okay? But they still came out one at a time. Come on. This is what I would say. Show up for yourself. Show up for yourself. And sometimes you're not going to like what you see once you show up. This is it. You're not going to like it. You go through it and push on.
It's your responsibility to deal with it.
Yes.
To recognize it and deal with it. Yeah.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
So where does okay, like you do yoga. Now I'm gonna just tell a little story about your yoga.
Okay.
Because I've never met you in the physical sense.
Yes.
Even though I think I know you, you know, in the other sense, right? And you created a video of different various yogas that you study. And I didn't know that you had, even after I was communicating with you, I didn't know that you had made a video about Kemetic yoga. And I was like, not taken aback, but I was just really surprised that you had such an in-depth understanding of Kemetic yoga and have never really, you know, personally come to a training or did anything, but you had just put it together through what you could get from various places, right? And not only did you your understanding of Kemetic yoga in the video that you put together, it was more in depth than people who come and take my trainings. And you even listed like so many principles that underlie Kemetic yoga. You know, you had them listed, and you went through the lineage of Kemetic yoga, and you actually gave credit, because a lot of people, they make videos and they say Kemetic yoga, but they never mention, you know, the fact that, you know, the source of Kemetic yoga, you know.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
You know, so I was very gratified to see,
I love that.
you know, just to see the acknowledgement and the respect that is often lacking, you know, in other situations, you know. And so I'm saying that to say that you know, you do Kemetic yoga, but you also have an understanding of many forms of yoga, and you do many forms of fitness, and you train people in yoga, fitness, exercise, weight loss.
Yes, weight loss, and the weight loss came in with my the weight loss came in with my daughter. And we both went and became chefs for retreats. We did a lot of collab. I'm one that I always felt like I was in preparation for something. So I was always preparing, always preparing for big vision, but also application. And so in preparation, before I actually like transitioned or switched over deeper into holistic health, I was more, you know, fashion, but I was still underlining, still speaking to people's self-development, this sort of thing. Yeah. And in that, while I was doing that, I was also still very much preparing because it's the course of my life. As I said, when you're creating, being a co-creator to source, you start developing your next thing. You follow? Even if you're not aware of it yourself, when people say, let's use the word self-sabotage. What is self-sabotage? You're preparing yourself for the next thing, but you happen to be preparing yourself for your own demise. So I prepared myself and have always prepared myself for my next thing, the thing that I find as a fulfillment. So even in, I've always been athletic, the family members, athletic, okay? However, it's like I wanted to know how to move even more so, more graceful, more strong. I've done dance, I've done this, I'm like, okay, I want this. But at the same time, I'm also building and trying to continue create a business. In all of that, my downtime, what people do with their downtime when they say, okay, I'm just going to go party. Okay, for me, I don't mind partying, but that's going to come after I done something that I find is more of an investment for me. Like I want to enjoy. Go on.
Let's take a short break. I gotta hold on one second. Okay, so yeah, we had to take a little short break, but so resume. Finish your thought that you had.
Okay. So basically, it was this whole part of being a student to your own self. Going back to owning the totality. When you said being able for me to go ahead and break down these, the health consciousness and the yoga skills and the methods of a Kemetic yoga, it's because I took time to learn it for me. I took time to okay, I'm going to research this for me. I need to enter and understand it. And then if I'm going to share it, I'm going to project the highest volume of this that I can. Because I had done, vinyasa, ashtanga, all these different ones, and I had put it out. And that's something that's very much commercialized. It's put out.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. It's put out. And I'm like, okay, now I have to do Kemetic yoga. And because it lines up with who I am, that also helped that vibration for it to just as I told you, it took me 6 or 7 months to actually do it because I wanted it right. Okay, I need to feel this. This needs to vibrate with me. So when I put something out, it's me. As it was in my previous years, the modeling and stuff, people would say, model, people would want to put their designs on me or me be a promotional woman, and I started realizing, wait a minute, I'm a walking billboard. Mm-hmm. So whatever is on me, it's open, it's just there. People gonna see it. What's ever in me, people are going to hear it. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. So anything that I do, that's what I wanted it to do, to vibrate to its highest, or my highest totality, to impact other people, to inspire them to do, because I was finding in my earlier walks, as I was developing the self, entering, understanding the self, that I would come into rooms, churches, whatever, and I would be there one day, keep coming back. The next thing you know, people were changing the way they were doing stuff, whether it was their hair, the women with the clothes, how a person was standing. People, how they say in music and entertainment, you have the way to move the crowd. So what are you going to move the crowd for? I had earlier conversations with the divine source, as I mentioned to you before. And it was like, listen, if they're going to be looking at me, I need to give them something, because I don't want people just looking at me. I had gone through enough of people just looking at me and them interpreting what they felt they wanted to do with me, and myself giving it over or not giving it over, and them trying to take it from me. Feel me? So I enter and understood. No. Okay, fine. If I'm going to look like this, if I want a crowd full of people, I'm going to give them something that they're going to eat of, and it's going to hold fast on them, and it's going to stay there until they decide to water it. If they don't like it, okay, fine. They don't like it. You don't have to eat of it. but I'm not going to be the one that tries to force feed you and push it down your throat, you know. Another biblical saying, you know, give them milk because they may choke on the meat.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of people watching this and listening to you who are going to want to follow your example. Okay.
Oh,
And so,
shame.
and so, um, what is the role? So to give them a holistic understanding, like the importance of knowing yourself through the spiritual understanding, but also the role of exercise, the role of yoga, the role of nutrition, and things like that. So what is your basic message to people that's on a very practical level?
On a very practical level, um, what I would say first is to be able to be in a quiet space with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with you first, just being able to be in a quiet space with yourself. Then, when you're in that quiet space, have a pen and paper. Whatever comes to your mind, write it down. After you get finished, take your time. After you get finished, look at what's on that paper, and it's going to speak back to you what's going on with you. And every part of the things that are written down are also going to vibrate within your body.
Mm-hmm.
So then you start to look at yourself like, wait a minute. So all I'm thinking about is my bills, or this that happened to me, da da da. Then once you've had that all written down, now you think about how you feel about each thing that you've written down. Then you look at detail. Go into detail. People go into detail about buying cars, about buying clothes, the food they eat, but they don't go into detail about themselves. Go into detail. So now you get all that written down. Now look at the people that may be attached to those particular things that you were thinking while you were quiet by yourself. Somehow you weren't by yourself. You weren't by yourself. So the execution of that alone starts people going, wait a minute. And then you look at the amount of time you've been holding on to that. Some people are holding a feeling from somebody who did something to them so long ago, but they're holding up. Memory is one thing. When people hold it, that's a weight. That's a lever. That's a bag. You know, let's go to Erica Badu. You know, just a bag lady. There's bag men too. You holding it. You still holding it. Not a thought like, oh, okay, I see the role I played in it. I see that person. I can move away from that. I see how I can be better with that. No, you're carrying it. So now you're still looking at that list and playing out that list from the standpoint of, this is what I was thinking about or be thinking about when I'm all alone by myself. The correction in that, and the depth of the people that may be attached to that. As I teach my Eris, I said, listen, beloved, you need to start identifying the spirit of something. Because gratitude, greed, jealousy, happiness, joy, but these are spirits, it's energy. Identify that. How you moving? Here's your list. That's what you would think about where you're by yourself. Here's the list. Now you broke down the list. Now, who are the people attached to those things? What's the emotion that you have with that? Because you're carrying all of that around with you. You want to go on a vacation. Take a vacation from your own self.
So when a
Because
person,
wherever you go, take it. Yeah.
so when a person is very unhappy with themselves, right? Say
Yeah.
they have
Why?
they're overweight. They don't really like the way they look. They don't, they don't feel like they have control over, eating the right foods, or they don't feel like they have the self-discipline to make themselves, do the things that's needed
Yeah.
in order for them to make themselves feel better about themselves. So,
Uh-huh.
so you would start them off with knowing
Sit.
yourself. Sit
Yeah.
down, go into this room or go into your own space, be alone,
Mm-hmm.
and start to go through this process of recording what's happening. And
Mm-hmm.
then what would be the next step?
And after you've done that, now you see all that in front of you. Now you have to start to dismember that. You have to start cutting it off, because you're the only one that can control how you feel about those things. This is all mind. This is mind stuff. This is inner mind stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can make you change your mind. You have to be willing to give it over. So are you willing to give it over to yourself? What kind of secrets are you keeping from yourself? So after you've done that, it still starts before you start to, for me, I've always taught people, before you start to jump out and try to work out or do this, first you need to work that mental mind. At least get that concept of working the mental mind first, because you're going to need the mind no matter what you do. Oftentimes why people go work out and then they go back to their bad habits, because the mental mind wasn't first cleansed. It wasn't purged. You didn't exercise that mental mind in your capacity first.
And an example of that, I don't mean to cut you off, but an example of that is like, say, when the new year come and people join health
Exactly.
clubs, and then
Yes.
the health clubs be packed during January, February, maybe, and then they start to, decrease how many people are coming, and then you have a membership that you're paying for, but you don't even get your money's worth.
Yes, that's facts. But that's one of those things that, even with saying New Year, how I would tell people oftentimes spiritually, this is how you use the New Year. Why you use that vibrating energy for something that you know you need to change within your life, or you want to expand within your life. So where somebody else would say, it's okay if you go out and party. Okay, that's what you want to do. Fine. But before that, you need to take time for the self and celebrate the self. Write those things down that you need to do, but apply the application, because you're also casting a spell. So again, first, have that time with yourself. The second thing, you're writing your list. You're writing these things down. The next thing, all of this is starting with the mental mind. So the woman, the man that don't like the way they physically look, then you need to physically go stand in front of the mirror. And I don't like the way I look. Why would I go into the mirror? Because first you must face yourself, own your own totality, because it was something that made you turn your body, your casing as a spirit into that.
Yes.
We have to own it. We have to own it. This is owning totality. That's where most people will run. Most people will run because they'll be like, oh, I'm doing self-development. Well, why are you tripping about this? We all are going to have emotions and feelings. That's true.
That's making me think about something I used to say, that it took a lot of work for you to create that bad body.
Yes.
You had to consume a whole lot of fried chicken over a long period of time to get to where you are today. And so you didn't pay no attention until it got way out of control. And then you've been looking in the mirror all this time, but you ain't been seeing what's really there. You've been in denial. Exactly. You've been creating a false image of yourself.
Exactly. But this is owning your totality. Again, what I started with first, the owning of the totality, that's every detail of the self. So now that you've gotten to the self and you're okay, I don't want to look at myself, then you need to present yourself in the mirror and you need to stand there. And now in that, you need to just say nothing. Keep your mouth closed and just see how long you can stand there. Most people end up breaking down because they have to come out. They have to say something. So, okay. So then say it. Say it to the self, the mirror work, going deeper into the mirror work.
And this is true whether or not, I kind of use the example of somebody who may be what we call out of shape or whatever. But this is true no matter, even if you look beautiful to the rest of the world, you may still look in the mirror and you see something that's undesirable.
Almost definitely.
Yeah, because we see people do that. And you wonder why they don't like themselves. But so and then you can love yourself even if you don't conform to the standard of beauty that society has, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the depth of that is when people, owning to your totality is a combination of things, but you'll have people that will simply say, okay, well, they're overweight, blah, blah, blah. Well, I love myself, honey. I like the way I look, da, da, da. Baby, that's okay. But are you good?
Yeah.
Are you truly good? If you need, health wise, for me, I've seen every, or I've worked with every type of woman, because remember, as I said, I started in the image business. So you had women that were what standard they said, because I was out of standard, petite, now petite women, plus size, all that. The foundation is the foundation. If you do not own your totality, you can be plus size and still being, oh, honey, fly, just looking good, da da da. But you can be toe up inside. This is that whole point. All of these things coincide. Why I felt that it was important for me to say, as you said previously, the splitting. You don't want to split the two, but at my time, I had to split it. Here's create your own identity, because people only wanted to deal with the external. But in divine balance says you need the internal to sustain the external, because the external is going to tap out. It's going to wash away. So the foundation principle of one who may say, okay, I don't like the way I look. You have to own that. Okay. And when I say own it, that means, okay, I own the fact that I don't like this. Now I'm going to confront the fact of why I got this way. Why am I this way? Why am I allowing myself to stay this way? Is it because of what that person said? Is it something I internally did? Owning the whole process of that. When you start to do that, you're going to realize some people start with milk. I know I started with milk first myself. Then you start getting to bigger pieces of meat, eggplant, whatever you want to call it, but bigger portions of food of yourself, inner and understanding yourself. And as you allow yourself to move through that process, applying application, because most people say, well, I know, girl, I'm fat, or I don't care. But okay. But the application for you to do something else about that is you owning your totality. Show up for yourself. Show up for yourself. You can't worry about what everybody else saying too. Now, Pookie and all them people, no. You are in your own casing. Okay.
Worry about Pookie, huh?
Yeah, we can't worry about Pookie. Whoever coming, Ray, none of them. You have to own your own totality, and that's every aspect of you. So if you don't like something, you have to be the one to do something about it. Don't wait till somebody else force you to do something, because then, that's the other thing I learned with raising children, and of course being a child myself. When you try to force somebody to do something, they're going to go the opposite way. Or you can force them, they'll do it for a minute, but wholeheartedly, they're not in it. That's what I prefer, how I raised my children, as well as dealing with even another person. Please don't do something for me if you don't feel like you want to do that for me, because that's how I treat myself. I'm going to do it because I want to do this for myself. I'm pleased that you enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's how everybody should live. Hey, because then that inspires other people to do the same. So that's my take on it. It's all application first, with yourself sitting in a quiet room by yourself. Most people can't sit by themselves. No music, no nothing. Just nothing. Just sit there by yourself and see what you start to say yourself, and write it down. When you write it down, that's when you have to look back at it and like, oh goodness me, this is what I wrote.
Yeah, that's some deep stuff there.
Sorry, we have my light.
Yeah, but that's very deep, because you got to go into the self. You got to find out what's there, and you got to just deal with it. Just face yourself, and that's part of the process of yoga and meditation.
Because all of that is, pardon, I'm sorry, beloved, to cut you off. All of that is extending from you showing up to yourself.
Yeah.
Really?
But what I often say about yoga, for example, is that it's a solitary practice. You know, people say, I want to go to yoga class and that's fine to go be in a class with other people and
Yes,
socialize
yes, yes,
and
yes, yes.
interact and stuff like that and have the support. But essentially, it's a solitary practice. You have to go into yourself because
Most definitely.
it's about transformation.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's very, very profound. I know I'd haven't even timed. I don't see a timer on this thing here, but
It's it looks like 1:15. Hour 15.
so we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes.
Yes, we've been talking.
Yeah. So
The sun did go down. You see them put the light back, the lights on.
yeah, well, you're in Spain and I'm in
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, and it's like this is November here, and it's like 11:33 a.m. here, and so I guess where you
Oh,
are, it's about what 6 o'clock or
yeah, 6:30. You're good.
6:30.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and
6:30.
so so I know we got to wrap this. We probably have to do a part two because there's a
Yeah,
lot of
no,
more
you
stuff
can
I
bring
want to
my
talk to you
daughter,
about.
even the
Yeah,
heiress.
the heiress in, yeah, and
Yeah.
and
Get her take.
I find you and her to be so interesting because I find, you got so many unique qualities about yourself. Like you refer to your daughter as your heiress, and
Yes.
she embraces that, and
Yeah.
your daughter, Jacqueline,
Mm-hmm.
she's 25 years old.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
and so
That's a
she,
whole testimony, and her
yeah,
her testimony, most definitely.
yeah. And I have a daughter. I have one daughter
Mm-hmm.
and one granddaughter,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
you know,
wonderful.
and one
Uh-huh.
great granddaughter,
Well,
but I'm saying that to say that I find the daughters are really, I mean, I'm not going to discount the sons, but I
yeah.
find, my daughter, my granddaughter, I don't know about the great granddaughter yet, but they have embraced, the things that I do. My
Yes.
daughter is a reflection of me, you know, and she is also a priestess.
Ashe. Ashe.
In the Yoruba tradition, she's also a yoga teacher, and she trains people to become yoga instructors. As
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
as I do, and we have a lot of similarities. I have twins. You have
Yes.
twins, and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna say this because I don't want to keep this. I don't want to make this too long. I want us to do
Uh-huh.
a second part.
It's okay.
We will be, I know that we are going to be doing some work together.
Ashe,
We're going
most
to
definitely.
combine, we're going to combine our forces together to give
Yes. Yes.
people a spectacular experience,
Ashe, most definitely.
in retreats and travel and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, I think a lot of people are going to be intrigued by you and interested in getting more direct contact with you. So can you
Mm-hmm.
maybe and I'm gonna, when I post this, I'm gonna put all your information on there, but maybe you can
Yes.
say how to get in contact with you.
Oh, just the web. Okay, you can do the website or follow the Instagram, and it's yamayafaye.com. So YAMAYAFAYE. And Instagram is the same. And usually it'll say create your own identity or the abbreviation CYOI. And yeah, pretty much that. Or of course you can email me, which is Yamaya. And I spell this one slightly different. It's YAMIAFAYE@gmail.com. And that was literally because I was doing the designing and I wanted to change again, slight change for the brand. But yeah, so that's it. I just thought about something too, because
Mhm.
of course, I have some ladies here that I'm working with, and the fact that yoga is such a self self-driven, show up to your own path.
Mhm.
I have ladies that are now currently 62, and they're doing things that they're less like, I didn't think I could do this, da da da. And of course, all of it again starts with that isolation of the breath, taking that time to be with the self, calming the mind, allowing yourself to allow whatever needs to come up to be purged up and then released out, this sort of thing. And oftentimes I would have ladies, they'll go, oh my goodness, well, how do you do this? And I feel like I'm going to cry. And now I have men, even more so men now, taking them through the process of stretching, and I mix it all. Okay, I mix it all. So vinyasa, Kemetic, I mix it all. How I feel the person is vibrating, so they can move in their own creativity. But the biggest thing is the releasing of all of the trauma that comes out when you allow yourself to tap in. When you allow yourself to tap in. Of course, we hold a lot of things at our sacral chakra, that sort of thing, and then contain it in the heart chakra. And people need to really enter and understand how to move their energy. It does take self-discipline. It is the biggest thing, self-discipline. People, oh, how are you doing it? You're 50. What? I'm like, it's self-discipline. Don't think this is easy. Like I'm waking up every day going, yes, I've got it. I'm going to do it. No, baby. Sometimes I'm waking up going, oh, goodness me, this hurts. But I got to show up. I got to show up. I got to show up.
But
so,
I think I shared with you before that my spirit animal is a bear. And so, and I feel like a bear, because I'm, when I wake up in the morning, I'm kind of grumpy and still sleepy and kind of angry. I got to wake up and stuff, so it gives me a little while to get going. And, so I'm saying that to say that even when you have achieved a high level of accomplishment, it's still, it's still work. You have to work through it every day. When I wake up, I have been doing yoga for so many years. I have flexibility, but when I first start my practice, I don't feel flexible. I feel still. I gotta breathe and work through to get my body open.
Body warm.
Yeah, gotta unlike it. So you gotta go through that process every day.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah,
most definitely. And that's the only reason most people give up, because they haven't gotten past the mental part of that you have to change it. You have to click it over. You have to click it over. Learn to create from the inside out. We always create externally, but when you create from the inside out, it projects back to you. It always circles back, and you'll start this infinite flow of energy to yourself. Like I can look at myself 5 years, or Facebook reminds me of something, and I'm literally wearing the same color that I was wearing 5 years ago on the same day, doing the same thing, like technically doing the same thing, but now it's expanded because now I'm with somebody else showing them the same thing. It's like that. That vibration always ends up coming back to you. So whatever you sow, I'm going to say this and say no more. Whatever you sow in your own garden, because you're a farmer, you're the first farmer, and the farming and the harvest comes to you because you're sowing in yourself. So sow those seeds in yourself first, build that harvest, then extend it to everyone else. Don't try to give out of a crop that hasn't been fully harvested.
Words of wisdom.
That's right, divine.
So that's that's a good point to begin, maybe ending. But what else is there anything else you want to share with people that we haven't talked about as much yet?
I believe we've been very expansive. We've been kind of went across the whole board a little bit. It would be more about seeing what the viewing audience actually has to say about that, and how we can cartel to speak more in depth about a particular area. And definitely, as you said before, bringing the heiress on, because that's a whole nother mouthful, meaning of the young generation, and she's half my age. So even though I believe I'm ancient, I've just been in this casing for 50 years. This is just
this casing. We just in a casing. We are, we're just walking around in a,
yes.
in a meat suit, so to say. Yeah.
It's a pleasure. It's been such a pleasure. I so appreciate it.
Yes, it's been a pleasure for me also. And I appreciate you sharing so much and opening up so much and providing so much insight, even for me. And what I want to do is, have another session with you. And I got other questions. I got questions. The world is
you're already brewing.
Yeah, the world is going through a lot of stuff, right?
Yes.
And I want to get some of your, I think you might have some great insights about what's happening, in the world, the turmoil that we see taking place in the world. And I've been here a little bit longer than you have.
Oh, most definitely.
So when I see stuff happening, I have my own perspective, and some of it is, I have a perspective, but I want to get more insight from you about, just about the world and world events and stuff, because
most definitely.
Because you decided to move over to you decided to move out of the United States. You're sitting in Spain.
Yes.
So
in Spain.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that next time and many more things. So I appreciate you. Much love and
yes, peace, love. High vibrations, divine. Divine masculine, high vibrations. Unk, Ujab, Saneb Neb, most definitely beloved.
Thank you very much, Hotep.
I look forward to doing it again.
All right.
Besito grande.
All right. Peace and love, Hotep.